Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Purpose Pursuer webinar. As the title kind of suggests, this webinar is for people who are pursuing their purpose. And here's the cool thing. There are no prerequisites to this topic. You don't have to already know what your purpose is. You don't have to be in the middle of pursuing it. No, actually, this webinar and the four of us are here for people who want to pursue their purpose, believe that they have one, but they don't really know what it is or how to go about figuring it out. So that's why the four of us exist. And that is why we get on these calls once a month, always the fourth Wednesday of the month at noon Pacific at this same Zoom channel. The reason why we do it is to help people who are considering what is my purpose and how would I go about it. It's a topic that all four of us love. All four of us are going to be talking today about a unique aspect of the purpose journey. I myself am going to be talking about how the four of us and the rest of the blueprint process practitioners actually go about helping you figure out what your purpose is and what your blueprint is so that you can achieve that purpose. And again, we are here on the fourth Wednesday of every month at noon Pacific to help those who are interested in pursuing their purpose and figuring out what it is and why they're here. So if there's anybody on the call who has a question, please feel free at any time to interrupt and raise their hand and ask a question. Just blurt it out if you need to. Otherwise, we will have our presentation, have our conversation, and we are very, what's the word? What's the word I used last time, Frank? We're not very stiff here. Informal, I think that's the word I used. We're informal. We love this conversation. We love all perspectives. So add in as you see fit. All right, so I'm going to start with my topic, which is, as I mentioned earlier, it is talking a little bit more about what we do as blueprint process practitioners to help you find your purpose. And actually, first and foremost, we help you find the tools that you naturally possess to pursue your purpose. And isn't it exciting? Even if you don't know what your purpose is, isn't it exciting to know that you have one? Not only that you have one, and by the way, it's meant to be applied in absolutely everything you do, 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. Your purpose is available to you in everything you do, both personally and professionally. And you have a blueprint. You have a toolbox chock full of tools that are particularly designed for you and your purpose. You are custom designed. You are a one-of-a-kind expression to be able to pursue that purpose, find your people, and achieve your cause. It's very exciting, and we love the conversation. So I wanted to get into a little bit today what we do to help you figure that out. And believe it or not, I am going to use the analogy of a fun house mirror. So you probably have all, as a kid, maybe as an adult, been in a fun house. You know, typically the floors are a little wonky. If you walk in front of a mirror, you see a distorted reflection of yourself. You're either super tall and skinny or big and wide, or maybe you've got ripples in your body. You know, it's a funky reflection of actually who you are. I'm going to use that as an analogy because when we think of ourselves, we usually think of ourselves in a way that's actually not quite true. We're looking at things that aren't quite real. Let's say we're looking at the labels that we exist within: mom, teacher, employee, you name it. There's a bajillion different labels, and most of us have multiple labels. If you look at those labels to determine who you are, is that the whole of who you are? And sometimes our labels can actually misrepresent us. Maybe we're in a job, for example, that actually doesn't quite fit us, but we're doing it just because that's what we need. We need to do this job to have to put food on the table and pay our mortgage, etc. So just like a funhouse mirror, these labels that we fill, these roles that we fill, can often distort the image of our real self. So the reason why I want to talk about this today is because knowing what your blueprint is, knowing that one of a kind, unique combination of skills that you possess, knowing what your purpose is, knowing what your cause is, the reason you exist. It's like stepping from that funhouse mirror into an actual mirror, a real mirror, where you're seeing your real self for the first time. You're seeing your real self in all of your complexity, all of your nuances, all of your specialness, your uniqueness, so that you now can go forward with confidence and surety in who you are and what you're doing. You actually know that you have the chops to pursue the very thing that you're passionate about pursuing. And as I mentioned, your pursuit, your purpose is something that you can do 24/7 in absolutely every single label you exist within. I'll give you another thing that happens in that funhouse mirror. So the funhouse mirror might be labels that you inhibit in your life. It also might be past events, past experiences. It can be even present circumstances, conditions, or status. Sometimes it could even be other people's feedback of us. And where, just like the funhouse mirror, some of that stuff is based in truth, the whole thing is not truth. You cannot look at that funhouse mirror and actually believe that that's what you look like. And as soon as you step in front of an actual mirror, you realize, oh, no, I'm not all wavy or out of proportion. I am the way that I thought that I was. And honestly, that's what happens with Blueprint too. Blueprint is like looking in an actual mirror and getting an accurate bead on who you are, regardless of circumstances, conditions, past experiences, mistakes, other people's opinions of you, labels that you possess. So that's what we are designed to do, is these practitioners, three of which are here with me today, four of which, sorry, are here with me today. We are designed to help you peel back the layers to determine who is that real self. What are all the components that exist within your toolbox that enables you then to go out and serve the world in the way that you're meant to serve it? And isn't it wonderful that the tools that you possess are ones that you actually enjoy using? So I will leave you with this. In order to represent in your life the actual mirror of you, as opposed to the funhouse version mirror of you, lean into that which intrigues you, that which you desire to do. Do those things as much as you can and trust that what you desire to do is actually based in blueprint. And in fact, it's an indication of blueprint. Lean into those things, do those things more, and your life will open in a way that you might not have expected. And success will start to look like something totally different than what you once thought it was when you believed in the funhouse mirror version of yourself. So before I go on, and we're going to go to Brandon next for his presentation, are there any questions or comments based on what I said? Or anything else for that matter? Hi, Gary. Seth, I thought you were going to, oh, there you are.
Can you talk a little bit more about labels, like in your process as you were preparing, what labels came to mind for you and stood out as you were getting ready for this discussion today?
Oh, it's a great question. So a parenting label came to my thought. A job description label came to my thought. I just spoke with a lady who's in a corporate position just yesterday, and she was talking about how in her organization, in her corporation, people are actually allowed to move within labels as they see a label fitting them or not fitting them. And most corporations are not quite like that. They say this is the job and this is the job description and you need to do it in this way, almost like a cookie cutter, a pre-formed mold that you have to kind of pour yourself into. So when I speak of labels, I'm speaking of labels like that. And to that end, there are labels everywhere. Even a kid has a label. He's a seventh grader, for example. He's a son, a brother, whatever. And so what we're talking about with blueprint is, yeah, let's just forget those. And actually, that's not true. As blueprint practitioners, we don't forget labels. We don't disregard labels. We actually use them so that we can research, we can figure out what your blueprint is. So in other words, a large question might be, how do you exist within that label? So what are the things that you really enjoy in that label? What are the things that are drudgery for you in that label? It's very indicative of blueprint. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I appreciate that context. Thank you.
Good question. Any others? All right, Brandon, you ready? Tell us what you got.
Yeah, all set. Man, so a couple things jumped out at me there. One was your line, success the way you once thought it,
Hmm.
right? The way you used to think of success. When you've gone through blueprint process, you begin to kind of change the way that you define success, the standards that you use to define success. They become less about what everybody else thinks they should be and more about what is it about me, about my unique blueprint that I can use then to define success kind of for myself, which leads, I mean, perfectly into what's been resonating with me a lot. I say lately, really this past 6 to 12 months, as I've reflected on my previous career as a naval officer, having just retired from the Navy, and moving into how I help people uncover, reveal their blueprints through coaching. And it's the idea of this golden path fallacy. And what I just talked about and what you ended yours with, success the way you once thought it was, if your idea of success, the standards you're using, are all other defined without examining them for alignment with you and your blueprint. In other words, just kind of, I don't like to use the word blindly because it gives me, it paints this picture of people just blindly following the herd without ever looking around. And I don't mean that to say that that's what people are doing, but I think we just fall into a natural, cultural defined, organizationally defined pattern. And in the Navy, it was actually, I mean, I had
Oh,
mentors actually called it the golden path. I mean, it was an
interesting.
actual like do this, do well in this job, and then for your second set of orders, take these orders. One of a set of maybe 3 or 4 different places, but it wasn't very much. There weren't very many options. And if you take those and then you do well there, and then you take these set of orders and you'll continue to promote and you'll get the jobs that that are indicative of that, right? So you'll keep climbing the ladder. That's the golden path. People called it the golden path. And it wasn't until, I mean, I didn't start calling it the golden path fallacy until, like I said, this last 6 to 12 months. But really, it was when my commanding officer, when I was a department head. So the guy, the commanding officer, the for people who don't know, the person who is like the CEO of like a 300 person company. Okay. And then I was a department head, so I'm kind of like maybe the chief operations officer of a 300 person business. And so I'm a department head, and my commanding officer is like, Jinx, your tour's coming to an end. You're about ready to select new orders. You've done pretty well. So why is it that you want to eventually be a commanding officer? To which I told him at the time, because it's the next step on the path. I don't know if I used the path verbatim, but I said something to the effect of, I don't know. It's because it's the next step, and I want to go to 20 years. Why? Because that's what you do. You go to 20 years and you retire, um, get the pension, all part of the fallacy if you never stop to examine it. And so at that time, I hadn't really examined with any intention why was I continuing on this path other than just it's the next step. And thank God for him because he was a great CO, a great mentor of mine. That was the defining moment for me where I started to turn inwards and started to be more introspective and started to connect really all that I had been doing and what was to come if I continued with what really mattered to me,
Mm.
what I thought that I was meant to be doing and why. And that when you begin to do that, to me, that's when you break the fallacy. I continued on a similar path that I was on. I continued to do well, but the way I showed up every day then was like intentionally, no, this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now in my life. And here's why. Here's where this aligns with what's so important to me. Here are the parts of this job I get fulfillment out of. Here's here's where I like to spend most of my time. And at the time, I didn't call it blueprint because I hadn't gone through that process yet. Right. But I was starting to think about it like that. Okay. Why does this all matter to blueprint? When you go through the blueprint process, you are intentionally revealing the things that are most unique to you beyond the role, like you were talking about, Tammy, beyond the labels and roles. These are the values that mean the most to you, the passions that light you up and energize you, the strengths unique to you. I remember going through the process and it's like, oh, I'm pretty good at X, Y, and Z, but everybody's good at that. Right. And Tammy, you were my coach and you kind of pointed out to me, like, are you sure everybody's like that? Because my perspective is no, that's unique. And you begin to just realize that you have these unique attributes, this blueprint that's unique to you. And like you are uniquely meant to serve a certain people at a certain time and place. And man, blueprint helps you do that so that then you can align your path. And whether or not you discover that, oh my gosh, like I've been on this path, I can no longer continue down it. It's just not aligned with me. I'm done. I quit. I walk away. Or whether you're not really in a position to do that, or you don't want to do that because, no, I do find a lot of alignment here, and here's where. And so then you start to say, okay, well, how can I begin to make those small tweaks for more alignment with my blueprint, for more fulfillment? Why? Because you're engaged in more of the things that you are uniquely meant to be engaged in because of your purpose and cause. And when you can do that, man, you start to break from this fallacy, right? The fallacy isn't the path itself. The fallacy is just the idea that this is the only way to do it. And I'm just doing it because that's the way I'm supposed to do it. Not really examining it. You break it by the intentional examination against what matters most to you, what you're meant to be doing.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I actually know some people who are in a position like what you're talking about where they don't have a choice. Or at least that's how they feel. They need to keep doing what they're doing. And of course, in this situation, we're talking about a job, but again, it could apply to being a parent. You can't get out of that role either. Whatever the role is, if it's an uncomfortable role, your point is such a powerful one. Like, what can you tap into that is in your blueprint that will make it better? And these couple people that I know in their examples, it absolutely has made it better. And they make different choices. They lean into certain things and things have just kind of started to open up for them. It didn't just make it better temporarily or sort of make it better. It actually started to change the situation. So I'm so grateful that you brought that. It's such a powerful point. It's the knowledge that matters. In fact, Aristotle said that self-knowledge is the beginning of all wisdom. And you really exemplified that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tammy. One other thing just popped into my mind. Um, when you do this work on yourself, it makes major life
Mm.
changes, and specifically to tie it to what you were talking about, labels and roles, the job titles we have, the positions we're filling in whatever organization we're in, or at home, parent, dad, mom. When there's a big change there, I just left the military. So when I have unique or clarity of my unique blueprint, I recognize that I've had that with me all along throughout my time in the military. And I will take that with me wherever I go to be applied in whatever way that I meant to apply it. If that's a new job, okay, new career, okay. And that clarity, I can't tell you how much peace that gave me as I was making this huge life change. Now, was the change easy? No. However, the man, it felt a lot lighter, and I felt a lot more confident I was making a good decision because I was staying true to who I was. And I knew, hey, I love my time as a naval aviator, helicopter pilot, naval officer. Absolutely loved it. That doesn't define me, you know. I'm not getting out and now, man, what, I guess I got to go find a pilot job because that's all I've been doing for 22 years is flying helicopters. No, I had a different confidence about me and felt more empowered because of the clarity I have that we are so much more than those labels and roles.
Yeah. Amen. That's so cool because you're talking about what's eternal within you, which is your blueprint, whereas roles come and go. And we see this with parents when their kids go off to school, right, Seth? Where, a bulk of their life as a mom and dad have been spent thinking about providing for these kids, and now they're gone. Now what? And the kids are doing their own thing now. But yeah, if we identify what's eternal about us, then as things come and go in our lives, it doesn't freak us out as much, and we don't have to start from square zero like you're saying. Super cool. Any other comments or questions based on Brandon's presentation?
He hit on a great point that it doesn't have to be binary. It can be a both and. So in his example, you love being a naval officer, you had great experiences with your sailors, you changed lives in that space. All of that stuff still remains. It wasn't wasted time. And I think too often we get in this binary mindset of if I do this, then that didn't happen. So just that awareness that you shared, home run, what a way to process through that.
Yeah. And again, it's a great tool for us as practitioners to say, what about that role did you enjoy? And we can learn just as much as practitioners. We can learn just as much about you from things you didn't enjoy. So it's never a waste because we can actually use it to identify blueprint items from the negative experiences and things that you don't enjoy. Blueprint is kind of bubbling up to the surface for us, and it's because we love, and we are equipped, all of us, we're all unique because all the practitioners are unique because we all have different blueprints, of course, and we have some commonalities which make us good at doing this for people. And one of them is we know that there's some depth to you, some eternality to you, and we're super curious about it. And we can find it from whatever avenue, whether it's Frank talking to someone in the grocery store parking lot about their dog, or Brandon talking to one of his, I don't know, what would you call them? Part of your 300? What is the name of that?
Squadron
Yeah,
mates.
yeah. Thank you. So, or Seth talking to his kids, regardless of what the situation is, we as blueprint practitioners can ask questions to dig beneath the surface of the label or the story or the experience to identify blueprint, what we refer to as blueprint players, which take place in one of four categories. They're either a passion, part of your purpose, a skill, or a value. Regardless, these players are what you're designed to bring to the table, every table that you're at, in order to uniquely and inherently give value. And we love the process of pulling back the layers because we find the stuff that's eternal about you more fascinating than what you've done in your life or what your resume says. Thanks, Brandon. Awesome conversation. Frank, are you ready?
Yeah, I been listening to Brandon. I was thinking of what I was going to talk about, but what I'm going to talk about has a lot of similarities to what Brandon was talking about. But what I've been really experiencing lately is this whole idea of being acceptable. What I mean by uh, uh, kind of brings to mind the whole idea of going out to be a draft pick, or like almost like even a draft animal. Like, you get looked over by the 4-H club and okay, that cow's good. See, because in my industry, it's all about knowing stuff and having the right strategy, and that leads to acceptance because people won't accept, which means that I won't get a chance to apply my skills and all the other things that come along with that, which are, okay, won't be able to help you. You won't see the value in working with me. Of course, I'm not going to be able to make a living now either. And oh boy, I'm just all sad now. And I've just been wrestling with this. I'll use the term lightly, but in looking at my blueprint and really being present, this is the big thing: being present to shutting off all that acceptable stuff in my mind, just shutting it all off, and really taking in what's coming at me from another person, and being able to pick up on things, having set aside all these other stuffs.
Voices.
Yeah, and then stuff occurs to me along the way. Case in point, I'm meeting with one of my largest clients, Boku Bucks, investment advisor, me, life insurance guy, them, and of course, I'm a trained stockbroker from the past. Licensed in that area, hated it, but was really good at doing that. Just didn't fit with me. So all on the way, I'm listening for my client who is talking to the investment advisor. And it just kind of pops into my head to, hey, Kevin, I'd like to ask a question or two about this and that and the other thing. And even the investment advisor says, have you ever thought, Frank, about actually starting up this part of what you used to do? And and we all had a good chuckle about that. But aside from that, it was like, see, the knowledge and the chops, as you call it, are still in there. They just don't need to be brought out as a show of, hey, see, look at me. I've got all this good stuff here. So you can pick me now and everything's going to be great. Don't worry about that. So this whole idea of being acceptable really comes out of this idea of, well, why do you think you need to be acceptable? Yeah. Well, because there's something that I need from the outside in order to thrive. And it's like, really? And when I look at my purpose and my sizzles, and somebody asked me a question this morning that says, so how is it that you've what have you enjoyed most about your business? I go, I've enjoyed seeing the potential realized, the things come about that have happened, and also of the things that are yet to be realized, the potential that has yet to be realized. And it's just, there's no end to it. There is no lack of people to serve or help. And there's just venturing forward into that, having set aside all these other concerns about, oh no, I don't have the license, I don't have the certificate, I don't have the, I don't have the tax knowledge, but forget about it. Because those things are known and they can be brought to bear. They don't need to come from Frank, and Frank doesn't need to have all these signs out. Like stores used to do in the old days, about this product or that product. They don't need to have that. The simplicity actually in having a conversation of quite a lot of depth like that actually it brings confidence versus the proving of oneself with these are the acceptable aspects of what I can be to you. It's like, no, the simplicity and the calm of just listening to somebody for me is like enough. And I think I'll stop right there. I'll leave it open for questions.
I love it. So whether I was talking about roles and labels and Brandon was talking about like the success path or the golden path fallacy, and you're talking about other people's opinions of you and feedback and so forth, and trying to be acceptable or approvable to others, all of those things. And Seth, you probably got some connection too. It's just going to be amazing. But all those things are things that if we, like a cluttered desk, if we take our blueprint arm and sweep off that desk of all the things that are temporary forces and influences on us or trying to be, to your point, Frank, we find calm and confidence. And so much more enjoyable, isn't it? To actually be present in the moment and really be investing your whole self into what that other person is saying, instead of having a split mind, trying to pay attention to them, but also trying to answer this question of how can I be acceptable to them? Or how can I fill my role as I'm supposed to? Or how can I be on this golden path and pursue this golden path doggedly? We get to now just be in the moment, invest ourselves in our blueprints in the moment. And then it's like we can, and because we can actually trust that by just investing ourselves in our blueprint in the service of others, things will literally blossom for us. We will find success. We will find surety. We will find inspiration in relationships that are better for us than we ever could have imagined. So thank you for that talk. Any questions or comments regarding what Frank was saying or anything?
What is it about the process, about the clarity that leads to confidence?
Great question. Frank?
That's for anyone.
Anyone. What is it about the go? Okay, go. I'm still
Yeah.
gathering my thoughts here.
Yeah,
What
no,
is it
I just
about
meant that question was for anybody, and it's, man, I love when you were during your talk, you spoke, but then at the end you're like confidence, calm confidence, and it's like, what is it about somebody having the knowledge of their blueprint, having this clarity? Like, what is it about that that would make somebody more confident than they were before?
It's a great question. Anybody? Yes, Seth.
Yeah, I think about this experience I've had coming through my blueprint, almost ending up in a place where it feels foreign just to finally have this awareness, literally walking around with this feeling of this world I'm in. I don't even know. I'm safe, I'm comfortable, I'm challenged, I'm all of those things aligned with my blueprint. But it feels so brand new. It's like almost it's the born again experience almost. So confidence comes from, I think, stepping into that day over day, minute over minute, conversation over conversation. The more you do that, the more you see the light shining through in that alignment, the greater your confidence and the more awareness that I think you have in terms of that's really who you are without apology, without titles, without expectation, without all of the things. And it's pretty profound. So that's where my brain went.
Lovely.
And when I hear the word confidence, what comes to my mind is trust.
Mm.
And it's like having like, you're assured. It's kind of like having the belayer who's holding the rope while you're
Mhm.
leaping from cliff to cliff.
Good.
It's like, look, all is not lost if you lose your footing, so to speak. And so with confidence, there is that going forward
Mm.
into the unknown. Whereas before it would be like, okay, I don't know anything about that. I ain't going anywhere near that. And thereby actually in that whole avoidance, losing out on any kind of value and also opportunity or clarity.
Mm.
So the whole idea here is that with clarity, confidence is an absolute byproduct of that. And as confidence grows based on that trust, based on that clarity, it's like me. It's like I can't talk to this person because whatever their qualifications, their titles, their this, and or what if they ask me something no, there's a freedom that comes
Mm.
from, who could I not talk to at any time, anywhere, pretty much about anything, and do it without having to have some contrived way of being in
Mm.
that. Oh gosh, I don't have the script for that. Hold on a second. Let me. No, there's none of that, because that all is just like that baggage that actually pulls me off focus. It's like, and in other words, you're not really present. You're trying to think of how to respond to the input around that's coming at you from outside, and it's like there's maybe success in that, but all the residual stuff after that is like, nah, I wasn't really up to that. I might have dodged a bullet here or there, but
Mm.
I really, and I'm dreading the next time I have to be faced with that. Whereas now it's like, no, no, like,
You reminded me of elevator speeches.
yeah.
And
Case in point, just
yeah,
today, if I could,
yeah, of course.
so somebody actually hurled a critique of me this week,
Mm.
and I just kind of stayed. It was hard. It landed hard with me too. It was almost like, Frank, you're just so wrong that you don't even know how wrong you are.
Oh.
You're like so deluded. And man, by the way, that was what it was. Are you actually paying another person to tell you that,
Mm.
something about maybe in Blueprint? And I could feel that welling up in me, that need to defend and explain why and it was just like, hang out. And out of that came something to look at. Like, yeah, it's like, let's take this one thing and that one thing, and let's unpack that. There may be some good stuff in there. And you know what? There was.
Mm.
And instead of running for it or getting
Mhm.
ticked off in response to the person, who, by the way, I do pay. And it's like, yeah, it's like, this is a good thing. And they ended up actually kind of almost buffering what they said. Well, I know this has been a hard thing to hear, Frank. And I'm going, no, this is a good thing.
Mm.
And I was just actually thinking of the way I might have responded to that in years
Mhm.
past,
Mhm.
and it wouldn't have been pretty at all.
Right.
And now I actually got goods to take away from me from that and go, this is actually usable. I mean,
Nice.
this is material. This is good.
Nice.
Had I not, I wouldn't have got it had I run, though,
Yeah.
based on how I felt about it, my identity, my worth, all that kind of stuff. It's like, no.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I love the analogy, by the way, of the belayer with the rope. Oh my gosh, that's a powerful analogy to Blueprint, where you've got that surety, and it allows you to jump from rock ledge to rock ledge as you're ascending the rock. It's just a great analogy to Blueprint. And you're absolutely right. These negative feedback, it could be a negative feedback or it could be a victory over here. These things cause us to be distracted, or a golden path fallacy or whatever. It causes us to be tempted to be distracted from our blueprint. But knowing that we've got that rope and that person that's hanging on to it, which of course I believe is God, then yeah, that gives us that confidence. What a great question, Brandon. Thank you. Anybody else want to tackle that question that Brandon asked? Why does the process bring confidence?
Well, think about the alternative.
Go on.
You're under the misapprehension that you present in a certain way. And all of a sudden one day you confront the fact that you don't.
Hmm. That's a good contrast. Of course, it reminded me of my own analogy of the funhouse mirror. What if you're not the funhouse mirror? Oh my goodness.
What if you are?
You know what? I have to say, a lot of people who come to Blueprint would say to me, what if you don't find anything that's good?
Always suicide.
I love that Blueprint only finds good. And we're not trying to say that you're good in every situation with every person. No, in fact, quite the opposite. We're only good in certain areas with certain people. The rest we're not meant to do. Someone else is meant to do it. Oh my gosh. So relieving. Thank you, Bill. Anything else, Bill, on that?
Yeah. I think I blew that one out.
You what?
Never mind.
Okay. Seth, you ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
Okay.
All right. So here's my challenge to you all is be present with me. Don't worry about what's coming up on your calendar, all the things that are flooding your space right now. Don't worry about what happened leading up to this. Be present in this space. The reason I'm pointing that out is for the first time in 59 years, sitting by a fire, I was able to do that from going through the blueprint and all of the work that we've been doing over the last few years. So it seemed pretty mundane, but just being able to actually be present is something I've had a very hard time doing over time. So today I want to bring you guys through some story that came out of the work leading up to this conversation today. So what got put on my heart were these words of intimate, dramatic, God-ordained, monumental, and more than a passing reference. Mm-hmm. So the story I want to share with you guys is on the wall in my office, and this was part of my intro as a wall clock. This wall clock is my dad's. He's since passed away, and we've gone through that painful process of liquidating his estate. So on my wall is the clock. If you look back in pictures from family pictures and all the albums, because pictures were a very important part of people's lives when they didn't have a lot of money or resources or any of that stuff. So it dates back to probably 1971 is when this clock first starts showing up in pictures. What I didn't recognize having this thing on my wall is what a pain in the butt it is to keep it wound, to make sure that you don't forget that it's a 7-day wound clock. And if you go to day 8, all of the chimes get way wacky. Everything kind of goes south in a heartbeat. What I didn't recognize as a kid is my dad had maintained the integrity of this clock and its function day in and day out, every day, every week, every year, until really the end of his life. My dad had Alzheimer's. And what was amazing is that the very last few days he was at home, completely impacted by Alzheimer's, sitting in his chair, would count the chimes on the clock. And if they didn't match the number that was on the clock face, he would get angry
Mm.
and he would go up and open the clock and he would tell me on the few days I visited during that time, he would say, stick the thing in the thing, because all the words were gone. So, and then when I didn't know what the heck stick the thing in the thing meant,
Yeah.
he would get mad at me because I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing. So he would grab a pencil and push it in the back of the clock and advance a gear. And then the next hour would come along and it would chime the right number of chimes for the hour. And he would look at me like, you're a bonehead. You should have known how to fix that. So I have that memory of Dad, but as what got more funny is I took the clock to the clock repairman to get it cleaned and, you know, get fixed, whatever needed to be fixed. And when they pulled off the clock face, there were 3 pencils that were shoved up in the back of the clock. So that might have had something to do with the mechanical function. But as I'm sitting here with this clock and I'm taking on that responsibility to keep that function going, there's things that I think the world's moving forward with that we sometimes miss. And that is, as I'm sitting here and I'm very aware now of the top of the hour, I'm very aware of the bottom of the hour. I have a reminder that, hey, another 30 minutes went by. But also in this is precision. The pendulum is clicking away. At first, it was pretty aggravating hearing the click, click, click as you're trying to focus in on certain topics. But now it's kind of blended into the background. But in that perfect pendulum sound is precision. There's order. There's care and feeding that goes into making that happen. So within that story, then I go back to intimate, dramatic, God ordained, monumental, and not a passing reference. In that even the function of a clock, when you try to step into that story and be present in that story, you see these elements. So when I take that story, and one of the key themes of Blueprint that I do is I want to work with people to dive into these big stories. So it starts with the clock, but for me, it's aligned to an adoption story. So now that I've been through my adoption story and I've met birth mom, I've met the lady that handled my adoption case. Just a few weeks ago, I got my original birth certificate that I was able to hold for the first time. I've been able to find these connections within that story that would have been absolutely impossible. There is no way to not intelligently align these elements to create this story. So that's the part, stepping into a simple clock, bringing these elements into bigger stories, in my case, the adoption piece, bringing these into bigger stories that illuminates these parts of story that in a lot of ways influence so many years of living. Left alone, you know, isn't really healthy. It's kind of like the piece of food sitting on the counter for way too long, gets all moldy and gross and oozy and all those types of things. But working through these stories, I think, is a huge part of Blueprint and what I do, helping people find these elements of story that otherwise would just be left alone as a passing reference.
They'd be
So
put
that's
into the
what I-
noxious bag.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to share with you all today. I think it was pretty crazy how a simple clock on the wall has occupied over 55 years of life. Just to think of what was happening in the rooms as this clock ticked away, minding its own business. You know, just make sure you didn't forget to wind it, and you know, everything would be good. So that's what I wanted to share with you all today. I hope that gives you some stuff to think about, and I hope being present kind of illuminated some stuff for you. I think for some people, I won't mention names, that's probably hard to do, is just to be there in that space and not think about what's coming up next and all those types of things. But I hope I gave some examples today that might give you something to think about later today and the rest of the week. So over to you guys.
I love the analogy of the clock. I knew from your video leading into today that that's what you were going to use. And I loved what you pulled out of it. I almost, forgive me, I almost see that you as the practitioner are the key that can not only keep that blueprint running and on time, accurate, precision, but it can help unlock the stories and what's embedded within the gold that is embedded within somebody's story, somebody's blueprint. Where I think most of the time, to your point, people just kind of skim across the surface of their stories, many of them wanting just to shove them away somewhere and not look at them. So I appreciate the time element that really came in with your analogy, the time that it takes to not only maintain the clock, but the clock itself and the time that it inhabited in the house and all of the things that it witnessed. It really is a good analogy to you as a practitioner.
Thank you, Tim.
Any other questions or comments about Seth's talk or anything else? Hi, Ray.
Yeah, I thought it was really good for me anyway, for you to start off by saying, just be present.
Mm.
And you talked about it for a little while. You didn't just say, just be present. You talked about it and talked about it and talked about it. And it brought more and more focus and pushed everything else away for me, in the sense that I was looking right at you and listening, trying to feel what you were feeling. With your dad looking at you like, what, you don't know how to fix that? Trying to really be present. I thought that was excellent.
It is a really good reminder.
Very good reminder.
Anything else regarding Seth? Ray, I know that you just got in. Do you want to give your talk? It's okay if you don't.
No, I can quickly say what I want to say. Yeah,
You've got the
I
rest
got
of the
off
time.
track and I lost track of time, and I'm out mowing the lawn, and that's why I'm sweaty t-shirt here.
You were present with mowing the lawn, as you
Yeah,
should have been.
weather was very present. Yeah, got to get this done. Yeah, so I wanted to talk about it kind of ties into what I talked about before, which was to let them judge you.
Mm.
I was talking about that the last time I was on here. To let people, this is what I think that the blueprint can do, is it can let people, it can be strong enough in you that you let them judge you and you're okay with it.
Mm.
And I wanted to use an experience that just happened. And it's almost like I could include two things. Two friends passed away, both from brain cancer.
Mm.
And one was 39 and the other one was 15.
Oh,
Just last week, we were at the service. And I just wanted to point out that they were both larger than life. That I would say they didn't even consider let them. They just really lived their lives. Even though they were cut short, they lived a full life. And even the 15-year-old was just simply amazing.
Mm.
He could be in a room full of adults, and all the adults would be around him listening. He was so engaging and so alive. And he was like this, he's been like this his whole life. And he was like that right to the very end.
Mm.
And so I think that the blueprint can allow you to let people judge you. And I mentioned last time that we also judge ourselves. So what's the big deal? Just let it lie, And I think that that's what it's almost like the blueprint gives us permission to just be fully ourselves. And you don't have to be larger than life like these other two guys I'm talking about. You can be really humble, and you can be living in a shack out in the woods and still be living your authentic self. It just so happened that these two went very close together and they were very dear friends. So it was very powerful for me anyway, personally. And so I think that that's what the blueprint can do for people, is to give them the space to really live their life. I mean, the longer you're with it, the more comfortable, the more you step into it, the more you step into it every day, every year. And that's what I have.
Lovely. Isn't it amazing, guys? We don't get together and coordinate our talks at all. And it is yet amazing the themes that have been running through today. Letting go of the superfluous to hang on to the eternal that is within you, so that you can make your maximum impact here while also experiencing your greatest satisfaction. And it makes sense to me. It makes sense. You have a one-of-a-kind divine design. It's a divine design, so it's limitless in its scope. And it is so fulfilling to just focus on that. I don't think we're aware of how often our objectives are short-lived, whatever our objective is. If you think about the things that you're striving for subconsciously on a day-to-day basis, most of them, I would bet, are based in time. So it's a short-term thing. Whatever you want, whether it's to make a certain amount of money, to get a certain number of clients, to get your daughter to do her homework, whatever it is that you're striving for subconsciously, it's a good idea to become conscious of it. And then ask yourself, is it based in time? If it's based in time, then isn't there something larger I could be about? Something more eternal? And that's where Blueprint comes in. All of us have these things behind us. So Frank and Brandon, you can actually see it. But all of us know what our blueprint is. Our one-of-a-kind design. Thank you, Brandon. And to be able to have that thing on your wall and be able to go up and remind yourself of who you really are and what you're really about, it shifts you immediately off of the time-based objectives that are out the doors and windows. And it helps us remember what's really important to us. And then we can get about doing it. And just like the Bible says, when we focus on the eternal, when we focus on the divine, all the stuff that we previously were striving for comes to fruition without us having to strive for it personally. It's an amazing, amazing effect. So I would like to thank all of you for hanging out with me today and helping us share this eternal aspect to each and every one of us. And I would like to encourage all of you watching this, that you do, whether you want it or not, you have a blueprint. You have a one-of-a-kind design that allows you to pursue your purpose, find your people, and achieve your cause. If you would like some help with it, yeah, that's what we do. Love to all. Have so much fun achieving your purpose. You'll never be done.
Bye, everyone.